Hello and welcome back. This is the 17th video in the Flow Certified Coach online training series. And my name is Andrew Kallman, and I have Bob Geist with me today, and he'll be introducing himself on the next slide. Our topic today is we're going to touch a little bit about flow reporting, what the dashboard looks like, and you can actually see that to the left here. And Bob's going to also walk us through room setup. So we'll go ahead and have Bob introduce himself.
Hi, Andrew. Yes, I'm Bob Geist. I'm a Flow Certified Coach, and I worked with Andrew last year, and we're going to share one of the rooms that we had put together that helped the project quite a bit. So with that, I think Andrew's got a couple of slides. Oh, no, I'll go through the leadership takeaways. One of the key focus is that you're not focused on the individuals anymore. It's really about the team's performance. And then once the team's performing, you can roll it up into projects completed and measure program completed projects, and then roll it up even further in the portfolio. So once again, it's all about the team. And the dashboards that we're going to talk about, you can customize them for where you are on your journey. And with that, I'll turn it back to Andrew.
Cool. Thanks, Bob. Yeah, we actually, Bob and I worked together, as he mentioned, last year on a project, and Matt was also at the same company. And we pretty much used the same setup for both teams. So these pictures are from a full agile implementation transformation that I did a few years ago. And as always, the team level burn-up charts are just for the team. We had a lot of fun nicely beating on the executives that tried to, hey, what's this one for? And so we had to say, okay, you can look at it, but don't touch. It's just for the team use. It's to help the teams improve. And one note is that if your team's not 100% allocated to the project or the product development effort, then if you're using points risk becoming a proxy variable. And we really saw that in the other project that Matt had worked on. I don't think we ran into that with our project, did we, Bob?
No, wasn't an issue.
Actually, the Bob's team actually consistently used the points, and they did it really well. It was really fun to watch how they were able to quickly put the points to all the user stories that were in the product backlog. Okay. And so this picture here is a day by day. It's a little small, you can't see that, but this is a day by day report. And we used to have that up on the front wall, and we would track the points for the team over the 2-week period of time based on the number of Post-it notes that they put up on the wall. The other thing that we had is we had what we called a cumulative chart, and it had the total points for each sprint as we were going through the project. And it was sort of fun. You could see where summer vacation hit because the line almost went flat, and then it picked up again and went upwards again in the fall. And so that would be a project or a team consolidated view, and that's a sprint by sprint tally. Now, Agile purists will say, yeah, the team, the sprint burn-up chart for the team, that's just for the team. I agree with that. It's here where we probably start to diverge, because on a sprint by sprint basis, once you have 5 or 6 sprints under your belt that were successful and the team has really hit true distillation and they're getting real things in the backlog, it's at that point that you can actually start to calculate their velocity. And so I don't remember us actually projecting velocity in our project that we did last year, but it is possible to do. Then with the program view, that's basically being able to look at the number of product development efforts or teams or projects that are completed, chunks of work that are done. And so that's when you're working with multiple teams. Let's say you have anywhere from 150 to 250 people working in a program together to create a product, then you can track as each team gets those chunks of work done. And you can plot that over time. And you can see on this chart here, about halfway through the year, we actually, not even that, about 4 or 5 months in, we were making some adjustments to the backlog because we saw, oh boy, the velocity is increasing so quickly for this team that they went up by about 50% in what they were able to deliver that year. And then the portfolio view is just everything, all aggregated into a single line. And we use this over 1 year time horizon. So this green line was the year before, this red line was the same year. And you can see how the team had already, like in October, surpassed what they had produced the year before. And even though the line was going above in the projection at this point in time, they basically hit the red line right on target at just under 100. I think they did 98 projects that year. On the next slide, if it's that's actually the same slide, and that's the picture that I'm talking about. And so it takes years of measuring results to build up enough data points to be able to picture the trends on which executives can make accurate forecasts, because your teams need to be experienced in using Agile, and once it starts to flow, it gets very easy to measure. And in this picture, these black lines, the first one here is it was actually 58 projects a year that they did the first year, 2010. And by 2013, 3 years later after I arrived, they had doubled their organizational velocity to 128 or 124 projects a year in 2013. And so they were able to take 4.5 years of work, not only complete it in less than 3 years, they completed 10% more in those 3 years. So they had 4.5 years of projects, 260 plus projects. They delivered over 290 projects in 3 years. And so it ended up working extremely well for this organization. And with 18 teams plus about 70 people on the marketing side, that was about 250 people. When you start doing the math on the salaries for that, for a year and a half's worth of savings, I think in the book I said we estimated around $20 million, and that was an extremely conservative estimate. It was easily over 30, but yeah, anyways, it was extremely useful. On the next picture, we're going to have Bob take over and talk a little bit about, this is the, what would we call it? The abstract view of the room, and the next slide is the actual how we set the room up.
And so to talk about this, I want to also refer to your forecasting. So as you indicated, it takes time in projects to be able to forecast, but that forecast also, the accuracy is dependent that the teams are still executing the way they have in the past. And
Yes.
with turnover of people, team members, or leadership, what we're going to talk about now is how do you make sure that the current teams or new teams are executing the same way that the data and the forecast is made from. And so the VSPT is important for the team and the leadership, what I'll call the vertical integration of the project team. And the layout of the room, I'll get into specific, but we'll have people, tasks, and then vision and strategy. And all the content for flow is in that room as the team takes the journey along with the stakeholders. So on the next slide, I want to talk about the room that we had for the project that Andrew and I had worked on. And the majority of the team was co-located, but we did have 2 overseas team members. And but they had access to the room, and I'll talk about that in a second. The layout of this room on the left side is the product backlog. So after the training, then the team created their product backlog, and then they used this for the sprint planning. It evolved. There were different phases of the project that it was sorted. Then team members started to sort out stuff in their planning. And so that wall continued to change and evolve throughout the project. And then on the front wall, on the left, we had the project team members, a very cross-functional team. I think 7 different departments were represented. And we started with color code to start with. And so that on the Kanban board, the individuals knew what tasks they had selected for that sprint. And then over time, that board changed as the different phases we got into. The team said it's easier to have swim lanes so that they knew their work. And so that Kanban board was very dynamic as far as the layout, but the concept of execution was the same throughout. Yeah. We had our sprint goals posted above the board so that the team, as they did their planning, knew what the goals were for each sprint. And then, as we talked about, pulled from the backlog wall. We had our vision and mission posted on the wall, and it was important whether it was discussion from the team as far as priorities, stakeholder requests. We would go back, is it a nice to do or a need to do based on our vision and mission? And then if it was a nice to do, we had on the backlog board potential next project or other projects that we would put those ideas into. Our burn up chart for the sprint was on the front wall, and then the cumulative one for the project was also on the front wall. And we also had the team health check posted. Originally we started monthly, and then we went to quarterly as retrospectives or problem solvings were result of the health check to show improvement. Then on the right wall was the strategy side, and we had a product owner program board where we looked at deliverables over time. And this board had a couple key functions, not only taking a look at the history over time and forecasting where to go. We identified dependencies. So it got broken down into the different functions and who had to do what in the sequence and who their customers were. And we used strings to highlight those dependencies. And that became very important because one of the things that we identified was that even though the team had consistent velocity, didn't mean that the velocity or the work being done was efficient. And so through the retrospectives and problem solving, we worked on eliminating rework and waiting time. The dependencies was key in identifying the waiting time, and then the rework came from just the retrospective. And what we saw as we addressed those two forms of waste is that time was compressed on that product owner board. So where the team essentially was producing different products using the same process steps, as they worked out the dependencies and the rework, it went from a very long time period for the first project to the second and the third. And then they had very repeatable performance. And that was all visualized. Yeah. So the team could see the results. Stakeholders could see the results. And so the fruit of their effort of eliminating waste, you could visually see on that product owner program board. The fourth wall, the one that you're sitting at as you look at this presentation, we had the teaching material. And it was very important for the project. We could use the flow material as teaching moments. It might pause from a stand-up to cover an item that they had been trained on with the reference material. We use it for retrospectives. We had the AHA curve, friction analysis, stakeholder analysis. We use those tools during retrospectives. And then what was most rewarding is when team members would go to the wall to emphasize a point that they were making either within the team or with the stakeholders.
Mm-hmm.
And so that teaching wall was very valuable. And then the last item I wanted to cover that we had on the front wall was a Kanban board for support. So this was a pilot project, and so a lot of new stuff. I talked about the distributed team, a couple team members overseas. So we had a video camera so that they could look at the board, and we could move items for them on the board. So a lot of IT support was there, the agile coach, the product owner, the business owner, items that we own in order to help the team, whether it's training, communication, IT support. Those items were tracked on our Kanban board, and we met once a week to work through those issues. Since it was a pilot, we didn't have the roll up to program level or portfolio, but there's placeholders for that because it is important for the team to know what the rest of the organization is doing. So for me, this, if you lay out the room this way, or if it's a virtual, having the right content is important to make sure that you're launching teams properly or sustaining teams as they work on new projects.
Yep, exactly. What was the reaction of people when they would come into the room and when you would walk them through the room?
It was overwhelming, from the color coding of the sticky notes, just the detail of the Kanban board, that product owner, the backlog, just the amount of material that's in that room was overwhelming. But for me, one of the keys, and we emphasize this with the team, is that my rule of thumb is it should only take 5 minutes to get ready for any review. And that's to notify people what time, and then the team decides who's going to talk about what, because everything's on the wall. What you're working on is there. And so visually it's available, and you walk the leadership through it, or visitors. And then once people get familiar with the wall, then it's not overwhelming because they understand the detail behind it and the flow of the material within the wall.
Yep. And over time, it was interesting to watch the team as the goals, as we started doing almost the goals as a checklist for each sprint, points sort of started to take a second place, and goals started to become much more important as well. And so we had the goals up here on the left-hand side, and then vision and mission on the right-hand side.
Yeah, correct.
And yep. Oh, and, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, did we ever notice anything when we did the swim lanes for the individual areas and with the leader for each one of those? Did we ever have an instance where something maybe got overfilled?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's one of those that the culture was still, okay, I need to get it done. But then over time they realized, okay, I can't do it. I need to move this back to the
white flag.
The backlog. But they would prioritize looking at the dependencies to make sure that they were not influencing other team members in their work, which was one of those aha moments within the team, and then you could really see them coming together as a performing team.
Yeah, because you could see the heartburn sort of going up because everybody's going, oh, look at these. They're overwhelmed, the work in progress. They're not going to get it done. And then they started going, well, wait a second. Will that stop us from achieving the goals? And it was like, no, we're good.
Yeah. And of the team members, there was only one that was dedicated to the project. We were basically competing with other priorities within the business. And so the team understood that. And ideally on the burn up chart, you want that daily cadence. But there were times where it was more of a hockey stick. But once again, once they understood the dependencies, they knew, okay, I have to get this done by Wednesday so that the next person can take it and get their work done. All my other tasks for the sprint, okay, I can wait till the end. So they managed it and they did well.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is another division had tried to roll out the same tool. And in a 3-year period of time, they got 2 products loaded. Our team, using the room and the methods that we've described, they got 6 products in a little over 12 months,
Yeah,
roughly.
yeah,
So that was like, if I remember right, that's like a 600 or
yeah.
900% increase, if I remember the amount of increase from the one division to our division. And so it just was a really good example to the leadership that, oh, wow, if it took us 3 years to get 2 products done, and then they could get 6 done in a year, that was a major increase in throughput for the teams. So
Yeah.
from that perspective, that was really good. But as we shared in one of the other videos, the team was there was inside the room and outside the room.
Yeah, the handoff of the product to have others use it was the second phase of the project.
Yeah.
Um, so
So yeah, Bob's one of the few people who has actually seen how I set up the rooms in Matt, because we did the same thing downstairs. But even though it was the same company and same division, the 2 rooms were still set up slightly differently. And so, but it was still basically the same ideas. So we have to customize this every time when we're working with the project teams and customers.
mhm. All right, so if we take a look at the recap, once again, focus is on the team, not the individual. And this room is really set the team up for success, and it's to help leadership take the journey with the team.
Yeah.
And I look at it, refer to as vertical integration, project by project transformation. And I found this layout of this room to be extremely valuable in the content within the room. And so if the teams are successful and leadership is taking the journey, then you will be able to roll up project by project and accelerate the performance like what Andrew showed on an earlier chart. So thank
Cool.
you.
Thank you very much, Bob. This was awesome. I'm going to click the stop recording. Thank you very much. And we look forward to having you in another video soon. Thanks.
All right.